I'm making this video on why people misrepresent God because it happens often. I myself have done it. I have to be careful. I always preach to myself on this channel to make sure I'm not doing the things that I talk against, right? We're all subject to the truth. I like to say the sword of truth cuts both ways, right? If you're swinging it, you got to watch out that it doesn't cut you, right? Because somebody can swing it back. So I speak to myself. So, why do people misrepresent God as I have done in the past? It's because people don't really know him. This is entirely logical. If I don't know Hal Jones from Detroit, then I'm going to misrepresent him. I can read about him in a book. I can say, okay, Hal Jones was a Democrat. He drove a Pontiac. He liked golf. He had 6 kids, 14 grandkids, and his wife's name was Myrtle, right? And that's something about Hal, but it's not who Hal is. Those are facts about Hal, but that's not knowing Hal. There is a vast, vast, vast difference between knowing some facts about a person and actually knowing who they are. This mistake is made by people who read the Bible or other religious texts, and they assume that just because they've read the Bible, well, they know they can accurately represent God. Who made this mistake the worst? The Pharisees. The Pharisees knew their Bibles better than anybody. In their day, in their culture, they would have known the Bible inside out, upside down, backwards, frontwards, forwards. Saul of Tarsus was a prime example, right? But when Jesus came along, they missed him as God's son, completely missed him. What did Jesus say about them? I know you, that you do not have the love of God within yourselves. And what did they do? They completely misrepresented God all the time. They made him out to be a tyrant and a jerk, right? And Jesus had to come along and say, no, God is not like you, and he's not like what you're telling people. I am, this is Jesus speaking, the picture of what God is like. Look to me, come to me. Jesus speaking, right? Because he is the picture of what God is like. If the Pharisees had known God, they would have seen the perfect picture of God walking right in front of them, Jesus himself. They would have said, we know you. We can recognize him because you guys look exactly like each other. Which is what it says in Hebrews, right? He's the exact representation of his nature, right? The express image of his glory, I think it also says. So, reading the Bible is not enough to get an accurate picture of God. It's just not. It's the difference between, here's an analogy, it's the difference between knowing the law in the Old Testament and having love as the fulfillment of that law. It's the same dynamic. The old law tried to create justice and love for human beings, but it was unable to. So what happened? God, through Christ, had to come and institute the law of love, which fulfills and completes and fleshes out the old law and makes it complete. It is a complete law that accurately governs humanity for all of time and eternity, whereas the old law was not. The law of love is the only love that can do so, right? So it's that same dynamic. We can read about God in the Bible, and we can know some facts about him, but that's vastly different than actually knowing him and his heart. So we have to get to know God ourselves in order to accurately represent him. There's no other way. This is how I'm going to accurately represent Hal Jones in Detroit. If I want to accurately represent Hal, I have to go to Detroit, or he has to come here. We have to spend lots and lots and lots of time with each other to get to know each other. Then we can accurately represent each other. I'm going to use one of my friends as an example. So I have a friend. I don't know if he'll let me say his name online. I'll call him Matt because there's 1,000 Matts in the world, right? Keep him anonymous. So my friend Matt, if you were to read something about Matt, say on his Facebook page, I don't know if he's on Facebook, but you say, okay, oh, Matt lives in Arizona. He likes Sam Adams, and he's been married for 3 years now, right? Go, okay, cool. I know Matt. But it's like, no. You don't know Matt. I know Matt. I've known Matt since 2007, almost 20 years. I know the abuse he's undergone at the hands of religious people. I know the difficulties and the pain he's gone through, and his divorce, all of the crap he's been through. I know a few of his family dynamics, actually a lot of them, because I was there for some of them. I know his kid. I know, and not only that, but I've interacted with Matt a lot. We've spent a lot of time together, especially when we lived in the same place, which we don't anymore. This is a true story. You can tell I'm telling you. But it's like, I know Matt. I can tell you like what drives him. I can tell you what motivates him, because we talk about it all the time. It's the stuff we talk about when Matt and I talk. And it's what drives him and he's passionate about. Nobody could tell me that, unless they knew Matt and the reasons why he's passionate about that stuff. That's the difference. When we get to know somebody, we accurately represent them. So I and anybody out there, if we're going to claim to represent God, we must know him. There's no other way. Don't give me the Bible. That doesn't cut it. I don't care how good me. That's why I don't spend a lot of time on here trying to prove to people how much I know the Bible. It's like, okay, that and $6 will get me a latte down at Starbucks, right? It's helpful to know the Bible if you know God. Paul, the apostle, made the switch. He knew the Bible completely well, and he was killing Christians and torturing the body of Christ as a result. Then he got to know who? Jesus himself. Then his knowledge of the Bible did him and everybody else some good. Before that, it was doing people harm. Don't tell me you know the Bible and tell me that you know God. And I'm not going to try to prove to you that I know God by my knowledge of the Bible. Me, you, and anybody else, we have to prove that we know God and accurately represent him because we actually do know God. Okay? That's the way it works. Now, another dynamic that I myself have to guard against, I'm human, is that when I'm wrong about something, if I'm misrepresenting God, I have to have the humility to say, I was wrong. I'm sorry. You were right. Or this was right. I learned something wherever I learned it from. Could be a video, could be a teaching, could be a friend. I learned something that I was incorrect about. I have the humility to say, I was incorrect. This is right. I see what you mean. Right? And God himself will confirm it to me in a relationship, which he does. Just as would happen within any relationship. Somebody go, that's the truth about me. Not that. God does the same, right? So I have to practice that humility all the time. Because this happens to me regularly. People send me videos, people send me books, all kinds of stuff from different sources around. My mom sends me tons of stuff. Various people send me stuff. And I have to go, okay, am I going to be so stubborn as to say, nope, I've got it all figured out. I'm not going to learn anything else. No, I can't do that. Once I do that, I'm screwed. Because God is infinite. And I'm always going to be learning about him. I'm always going to be learning who he is. I mean, for gosh sake, we got eternity to do it. So there you go. The basics. If you ever want to know why people misrepresent God, it's because they don't know him. And what's the solution? Getting to know him. Thank you, and have a nice day.